Welcome to today's ISES Hangout. ISES is the International Special Events Society, and as the name suggests, we have chapters and members all around the world. You can find us at ISES.com. If you work in any segment of the events industry, we are your association. We put these Hangouts together to encourage the sharing of knowledge with the aim of improving industry standards in all areas of special events. If you want to contribute, you can do that via email, hangouts@isesvancouver.com. You can comment on our YouTube channel. You can use the hashtag ISESHangouts. So post your comments, tweet, and email, and we'll do the best to answer your questions. Today we are talking about overcoming adversity and the support structures that exist to help people who are going through crisis in their personal and professional life. I am joined by some people who can enlighten us on this interesting topic. We have Kelly White from the Search Foundation, Heidi Barlow-Lee, who has experienced some challenges in her professional and personal life, and Alan Sachs from the BC Hospitality Foundation. So, let's get straight into it. Heidi, I might throw to you. Can you share with us your story of adversity and how you overcame it?
Sure. So let's see. My story goes back to the year 2007, and I was probably about 5 years into my business of HBL events. I'm an event manager. It was a Monday morning, and I was out riding my horse. I have been a competitive equestrian rider for years and years, so I thought I would take a little time out on a Monday morning because the next day I was due to put 3,800 students through convocation at the University of Victoria. So I was just having a quiet morning and a quiet ride, so I thought. But what ended up happening is I was thrown from my horse and landed very wrong and put my leg through my pelvis into 9 pieces. So I was definitely not going to be working the next day or for actually an entire year. So, yeah, I guess everything stopped for me. Life stopped for me. Mobility stopped for me. I was shipped to the Vancouver Trauma Center for about a month, and I didn't walk for about 6 months, and then it took me about another 6 months to learn to walk. So in terms of my business that I had just been building all my clients sort of 5 years in, everything came to a complete halt. So, also, money also came to a complete halt. So it was a very challenging time, physically, obviously, and mentally, and very hard on my family. I had 2 young kids at that time. Yeah, that's kind of my quick version of something I faced and was knocked down right in the middle of building my company.
What was the structures? Did you utilize any support structures to help you get through this? Was it family, friends? What was your main way of dealing with this major life crisis?
It was family and friends, and boy, I wish I would have known about Search or BCHF at that time. I was about 5 years into the event industry and wasn't aware of things like that, and that's why I'm so happy to be on this call today so that others will be aware of these great organizations. For me, I turned to family, friends, and our community. The most amazing thing, I live in a little beach community on Vancouver Island, and our community cooked for us for 4 months. 4 months, every single night, dinner was delivered to our door. My husband was working in and out of Vancouver and Victoria. I had 2 young daughters. I was not moving. The support that we got was absolutely amazing. It's what pulled me through in the end.
That's fantastic, and that's probably a really good segue to throw over to Kelly. Would you like to talk about what the Search Foundation is and maybe some stories of people that you've helped in the past?
Absolutely. So, Heidi, what you described is exactly what the Search Foundation is here for. We're here to help event professionals that are going through some sort of crisis or some sort of emergency where they just need support, they need help. And the way that we do that is that we directly fund up to $5,000 per calendar year to people who apply to the foundation who are going through some sort of a catastrophe. So that's what the Search Foundation does. We are international. we run the gamut across all segments of the event industry. So as long as you're in some portion of special events, that could be catering, meeting planning, any kind of vendor or part-time worker. If your living is in the special events industry, then you're eligible to apply. And what you would do is go to our website, fill out an application, and the application is reviewed, and within 30 days you have an answer and a check. So it's really a really wonderful resource for people who are going through difficult times, and a resource I'm not sure that everybody, especially on an international level, is aware of. So we're really thankful for the opportunity to be part of this hangout today. So as far as stories, I had the great honor of sitting on the chair spot for the donations committee for 5 years, and that means that all the cases that came through the Search Foundation I read and worked with the committee to score and then pay out the funding. So I have seen many stories that are just heart-wrenching, everywhere from people who have found out that they've come down with like stage 4 cancer, it wasn't caught, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in a situation where they're incredibly ill, or someone has lost a limb or severely broken a leg or an arm. We have had people who were struggling because their business partner and or sometimes their spouse has passed away, and they were really the business meat and potatoes, and this other person's now left sort of holding the bag of this business and not sure what to do with it. I've seen specifically recently a lot of weather-related incidences. So when we talk about obviously quite a few years ago with Katrina, but then we also have Hurricane Sandy, and different areas have experienced severe weather, flooding, things like that. You don't always think about that as an impact to your business, but when you have that sort of major weather event that's happened, businesses shut down, roads shut down, houses and businesses are flooded, roofs are taken off, and so depending on what kind of insurance companies have, that can be a total deal breaker for a business owner. And many of us in the events industry are entrepreneurial or work for small companies, and sometimes it's just one thing that can unfortunately send things spiraling downhill. So we want to be as responsive as we can to respond to people who are in those situations.
Great, fantastic. Sounds like amazing work. Alan, can you talk about BC Hospitality Foundation and perhaps speak to some of the recipients and why the foundation was set up?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. I'd be delighted to. And actually, we're all learning on this particular call, and I'd never heard about the Search Foundation, and we obviously have a bit of crossover between the BC Hospitality Foundation and Search, and I look forward to finding out more from Kelly later on. But the BC Hospitality Foundation is an organization that supports people whose livelihood depends on hospitality, and that's whether they are directly in the hospitality industry, such as the operator of a restaurant. They might be a cook, they might be a chef, they might be a server. They might be in a media company that specializes in hospitality. They might be a journalist that writes about hospitality. But when their livelihood depends on the industry, and certainly our recipients have included people like winemakers and brewmasters who, without hospitality wouldn't have any beer or any place to sell their beer or sell their wine. And what we do is we are supporting people who are in financial crisis due to a health or medical condition. So we are very specific that we are relating the financial crisis to a health or medical condition, and that's unfortunately there are a lot of people that fall through the cracks, and whether they have benefits or not, but if they're off work for a period of time, they are unable to pay rent, they're unable to pay medical bills. We're there as a backstop. We are a safety net. We are the last resort sort of situation, a place where someone can apply to. And some examples of people that we've helped, and they range, and so certainly, same as Kelly, I see all the applications, and it's quite scary that the situations that some people get into. Our most recent recipient is a young lady that had an accident when she was like Heidi, trying to have some fun. She actually jumped off, she was doing some bridge jumping in Port Brentford and landed awkwardly and damaged her spine, and now she is paralyzed from the chest downwards. And she's 27, and that's life. It's changed her life. In that particular situation, we got involved with her employer, which is a pub in Langford, and we said we would match up to $10,000 the funds that they raised on Sunday night. And so we're hoping, they had a fundraiser in the pub in Langford on Sunday, and we're hoping that they raised more than $10,000. So if they raise 15, the young lady's going to get 25,000. So that's their 15 plus our 10. So that's an example of how we do matching funds. Another example would be someone that's going through lung cancer and going through surgery. And we would be in a situation where, even if there wasn't a fundraiser involved, we might, or we have, supported those individuals with a financial payment. Certainly, they tend to range from $2,000 to $5,000 on average. And we've had servers that have had car crashes. We've had a young lady in Whistler who recently tumbled off her bike and lost all her teeth. That's facing a $20,000 dental bill. You know, she's 20 years old. She has no assets. She's got a large student loan. She's got no coverage because she's new to the province. In fact, dental coverage, there's no dental coverage anyway on our medical plan. So, you know, $20,000 is a heck of a lot of money for someone at 20 years old, never mind the cosmetic situation that she faces. And we were in a situation there that we, again, matched funds, and between the matched funds and the fundraiser that was held for her in Whistler recently, I think it was $18,000 raised. So those are the sorts of situations, and unfortunately, people can't plan. You know, you can't plan for an accident, you can't plan for a disease, you can't plan for an illness. And we've got lots of stories, and we are there to support people in those really troubling moments in their lives and help them get through. You know, in the same sort of, we have an application form online, bchospitalityfoundation.com. People fill in that application. It's reviewed by a committee who makes a recommendation to our board, and we then issue a check. And unlike a lot of organizations, it's very quick. We've actually had a number of instances where the turnaround has been 72 hours. So we're not bureaucratic. We want to help people that are in need, and we certainly feel there are certainly many instances of people in our industry who face difficult situations, and we are there to help them.
Fantastic. So, further to that, Alan, you made an interesting point that you can't plan for these kinds of crises in your life. I'd like to throw it out to the panel, and we've just said that you can't do it, but is there any way that individuals can be sort of prepared or semi-prepared to face these sort of challenges, and maybe not have to rely upon organizations like the BC Hospitality Foundation and Search? Is there anyone want to chime in there? It's a tricky question, I know.
I have some feedback on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of what we see are people who are, as we said, a lot of entrepreneurs, people who own their own business. They're either maybe like Heidi, out on their own, have their own event planning business, or they work for a small company. And sometimes the medical insurance is just not there. They haven't invested in medical insurance to cover their bills, and then they find themselves either very ill or with an injury, and as Alan said, even something like dentistry, it's amazing how quickly those bills can pile up. And $20,000 is a lot of money, but when you're talking about months in the hospital on chemotherapy and things like that, you're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's a debt that you will carry for the rest of your life if you don't, or if you're not properly covered. So it's easy to say, and I know not everyone can always afford the best medical coverage out there. I know especially in the States we're struggling with that quite a bit. But whatever you can do to make sure that yourself and your employees are covered at least minimally, that's a great layer of protection against finding yourself really in a horrible spot.
Would anybody else like to?
I can chime in on that as well. And I think we find a lot of people that that live, we're talking about business owners. We're also talking about individuals that work in the industry, and it's amazing the number of people that work or live paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And I think we do have a role to play, and I think going forward, financial planning, financial advice. Tip earners are an amazing, a typical example that, I think if, for example, and I use this as an example a lot when speaking to people in the industry, if tip earners, if their tips were put in a bank account rather than being cash, it would change a lot, because I think cash burns a hole in people's pocket. And let's just focus on people who, that aren't tip earners, people who are running the business or are managers or perhaps aren't perhaps living paycheck to paycheck. But I think planning, whether it's insurance, whether it's long-term disability, I think it's a responsibility that people need to take. We need to educate. We need to educate people what is out there and available to them in the event of a catastrophe. And there are, whether it's, I think the number of people that don't have life insurance, the number of people that don't have a will, the number of people that don't have long-term disability. I mean, whose responsibility is that? It's the individuals. And yes, we're mopping up. We're helping out. And obviously, there are always going to be situations where there are sad stories. But I think we can mitigate. People can mitigate by not putting off, not procrastinating, and ensuring that they have looked into insurance, into dental, into private medical insurance, into plans and plan. I think it is a responsibility, individual responsibility, to plan for as much as they can. I think that it's unfortunate, but a lot of people don't. And I think, as I say, I think we need to do better at educating. And I think that starts early on. I think it's people at schools, at universities. We don't talk about financial planning. We don't talk about planning insurance. I mean, it's not on the school curriculum, but maybe that needs to be built into school curriculums, whether it's at college or university or event planning courses or hospitality management, whatever it might be. I think we need to address these issues because they're not going away.
Great points. Heidi, do you have anything to add to that topic?
I agree. It's up to the individual. Myself and my husband are both consultants. We run our own business, and I think you're seeing a lot more people doing that. So it's up to each individual to take responsibility and plan for the unforeseen, future, but plan for the what if something happens too. So, yeah, I agree. Financial planning, and I teach the event management class at Camosun College, and I talk about my story to the students, and I think it gives them some insight into if they're going to start their own event planning business, they better be thinking about if they're not able to pull off an event due to illness or injury, that they're prepared.
Great. So back to the foundations a bit, and how does both the foundations, and perhaps we'll start with Alan this time in the BC Hospitality Foundation, how do you obtain your funding and your money to be able to facilitate these the support systems?
We have to go out and raise money. We're not funded anyway by taxes or grants or anything like that. We undertake our own fundraising. We have proprietary events. We have a number, whether it's golf tournaments or food and beverage events, a hospitality Olympics that's taking place in November. We literally have events where we're doing the classic fundraising. We have a number of people. We have third-party events where people putting on, whether it's Brewery in the Beast in Victoria and Vancouver, where it's Culinaire, whether it's the Tequila Festival in Vancouver. They choose the Hospitality Foundation as a beneficiary, and that's third-party fundraising. So we have other people raising funds for us. The other source of funding is going directly to the people that work in our industry and raising funds. So we have campaigns going on in hotels, in hotel associations in Vancouver and Victoria and in Whistler, where we're setting up campaigns where we're looking at people in the industry supporting their own charity, and so we are we are always looking for avenues for fundraising, but literally we are doing our own fundraising, and it's a hard slog. It's difficult, as fundraising always is, and there's so many people, there's so many great organizations out there doing fundraising that you're competing. So we're looking at it, at the moment, we don't look at consumers, we're looking at people who work in the industry funding their own charity. We talk about working together to help our own. And that's how we approach our fundraising. In its simplest form, if we could raise $2 from everybody that worked in our industry every year, we'd have no problem. The difficulty is, how do I ask everybody, 350,000 people in British Columbia for $2? I don't think they'd say no if I asked them, but it's hard to get that message out.
Yeah. Kelly.
So we have a very similar situation. We do fundraising events. We focus on the special events industry, and so we are present at a lot of the major conferences and have been successful with partnering with organizations like TSE, which is the special event show here in the States, also with ISES at their annual meeting, and we're looking for additional opportunities to partner with conferences and have some sort of fundraising event there. As Alan said, there is this thread that I talk about all the time that runs through, obviously, hospitality as well as special events. Really, anyone who does what we do, is there's this feeling of, we are family and we do take care of our own, and we say that all the time. And the amount of support that people are willing to give is tremendous. But we face the same challenge as it sounds like you all are facing with, just getting that message out there and finding the right avenues to reach people. But we are successful with our yearly fundraisers, and we do have some very generous people who do annual gives to us, and we're very lucky as a foundation to have wonderful people behind us.
Great. And I guess on that topic, if individuals want to get involved, support, of course, obviously financially is a great idea, but if they want to also support their time and efforts, if they can't afford the financial support, how do they contact Search or BC Hospitality Foundation?
Well, go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead, Kel.
Well, for Search, you can just access everything on our website. So we're searchfoundation.org, and on there is an email address that will connect you to our administrator, and she can walk anyone through whatever it is they want to do, whether it's a small, hey, we'd like to do $25 a month for the next year, or we want to write a check, how do we go about getting it to you? She can handle the financial donations. But when it comes to donating time, sometimes I think that's even more valuable, because the more doers we have, the better we can be as an organization, the more effective we can be. So we have several committees that work with directors that sit on our board, and that's really how we get our work done. We're an entirely volunteer organization, and it's really populated with a lot of strong event leadership type people. These are people who are well known, who are out there making it happen every day. So we have a great board, and the way that we grow that board is by using our committees properly. And so if anyone wanted to be involved, that would be a tremendous opportunity to do that.
Right. Alan?
Support comes in many ways. I think we are basic. We have the equivalent of one person paid. The rest is volunteers. So supporting the Hospitality Foundation through helping at our events, volunteers. We're always, Heidi knows that I'm always looking at volunteers in different places. So contacting the Hospitality Foundation via our website and letting us know that you're able to or one is able to volunteer is great. It's very important to us. We're always interested in hearing from people who are putting on events that may need a beneficiary charity, a third-party event. Someone's running, a wine tasting or a special event, and they want a charity to be involved. We love to be the choice for those events, and we're always looking for people that are keen to provide time and provide us with ideas and knowledge so that we can help more people.
Fantastic. And of course, you can get in contact with the Search Foundation or BC Hospitality Foundation through your local ISES chapter, ISES International, and of course ISES Vancouver. And if you're watching our Twitter feed at the moment, you'll see that a lot of the contact details have gone up on that very recently. I guess we're sort of getting towards the end of this discussion. We could go all day talking about this topic, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion once we go offline as well. Are there any points that you'd like to conclude with, perhaps Heidi?
I'm just happy that we were able to have these two on the Hangout today, so lots of people in our industry are going to know who they could turn to for some extra help. I think one thing I wanted to share is, even though my year was extremely challenging, I actually feel in the long run I became a better event manager for what I had to go through. One of my first big events was sort of like 60,000 people outside on a large outdoor site when I first got back walking and working again, and I quickly realized I was not going to be able to manage the events on site the way I used to be able. So radios became my best friend, and the team that I surrounded myself, just like when I was down, the team that surrounded me to support me then, the team that I chose to help me on event days became very important. If they were people that I could trust, they were people that I could just delegate to, they could help me out. So going through the challenge I did actually changed the way I managed events, and in the long run, it was a good thing.
Great, Alan, is there any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think we're delighted to have the opportunity to talk about the Hospitality Foundation today, and we're very pleased to be involved with the event planning group here in Vancouver, ISES, and you know, it's all about awareness for us, making sure that the people who need support know about us. And so even if someone who's listening or watching us today doesn't need our support themselves, it's critical and it's very important that we would like and encourage them to tell other people about the Hospitality Foundation to ensure that we are getting to the people that need support. Because as I said right at the beginning, there are too many that do, and there always will be people that need support, and we're out there, and we do have the ability to help, and we want to make sure we're doing it. So we're very appreciative of the audience today and to have the opportunity to talk about the Hospitality Foundation.
Great, thanks, Alan. Kelly, any closing thoughts from you?
Just one thing to mention that's very important, and as Alan said as well, if you aren't necessarily going through a crisis or in a situation, but you know someone who is, the Search Foundation will allow you to apply for someone else. So you don't just have to apply for yourself, you can actually nominate someone else to be funded. And the most important thing to remember is that is completely anonymous. So when your application is submitted, the only person who would ever see the documentation with your name on it would be our administrator, and she never divulges personal information. She removes all the personal information before the application is sent to committee. So even myself, I have absolutely no idea from one case to the next who it is that we're funding. So we want people to feel comfortable that if that is an issue that would prohibit you from applying, that we want to assure everyone it is 100% anonymous as well.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's our time for this Hangout. I'd like to thank our amazing and generous panel for taking the time to talk to us about this very interesting topic. You can connect with us either via email, hangouts@isesvancouver.com, or via Twitter. And if you've been watching the Twitter feed, it has been going crazy while we've been talking, so it's obviously a topic that is very interesting and near to a lot of people's hearts. You can get our Twitter handle. It is @ISESVancouver, or the hashtag ISESHangouts. ISES is the International Special Events Society. We have chapters and members in almost every place you could possibly imagine. You can find us at ISES.com. If you work in the special events industry or are interested in working in the events industry, we are your association. You can get in contact with all of our panelists today via ISIS Vancouver or via our YouTube page. So don't forget to keep the conversation going and message us all directly as well. You can find a lot of that information on our Twitter page. Otherwise, send that email and we'll put you in touch. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our previous episodes. Thanks again to our panelists for joining us on our ISIS Hangout today. And we will see you next time. And say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks.